Most suffering isn't caused by life itself. It's caused by the quiet argument we keep having with life in our own minds. Tonight, I'm not here to give you motivation or hype. I'm here to offer you something far more useful: clarity. The kind that doesn't push you forward, but gently helps you stop fighting what already is. These are 10 truths you don't repeat to feel stronger on the outside. You repeat them to stop leaking peace on the inside. They aren't loud, they aren't dramatic, but if you let them in, they can change the way you meet your thoughts, your struggles, and this very moment. And here's my promise to you. By the end of this reflection, you'll have one simple practice you can use whenever your mind starts to spiral, especially at night. And if one of these truths stings a little as you hear it, don't push it away. That sting is often the doorway to the freedom you've been quietly looking for. Think of these not as harsh truths, but as lantern truths. A lantern doesn't make the road easy, it makes the road visible. And when the road becomes visible, fear begins to soften, because most of our suffering doesn't come from what is in front of us, but from what we can't clearly see. Tonight, these truths are here to light a small path through the noise, not to push you, not to judge you, but simply to help you walk with clearer eyes. Each lantern we lift will be simple but powerful. First, I'll name the truth in one clear line, then I'll show you where it quietly appears in everyday life, in your thoughts, your habits, your late-night worries. After that, I'll share the Buddhist lens, a gentle way of seeing that turns confusion into understanding without heavy words or lectures. And then, you won't just listen, you'll practice. For each truth, I'll guide you through a short, 20-second action you can try right here, right now, followed by one quiet question to carry with you. Not to answer perfectly, but to let it echo in your heart. Because these lantern truths aren't meant to impress you. They're meant to walk with you, one small light at a time. Truth 1. No one is coming to complete your life. Let me start with something that may feel uncomfortable, but quietly liberating. There is no perfect moment on its way to rescue you. No perfect mood, no perfect partner, no magical version of yourself who will arrive one day and finally begin living. If you're waiting for life to feel safe before you start, you may be waiting forever. And deep down, you already know this, because every time you say, "One day, I'll begin," a small part of you feels the weight of another day slipping by. You see this truth show up in simple ways. You wait until you feel motivated before you meditate. You wait until you feel confident before you speak. You wait until life feels stable before you chase what matters. But life rarely offers that kind of stability. It keeps moving, changing, testing. And so waiting becomes a quiet habit, not because you are lazy, but because you hope something outside of you will finally make it easy to begin. From a Buddhist lens, this hope is a refined form of attachment. Not attachment to things, but to the idea of a savior moment. The Buddha taught that freedom doesn't come from being carried across the river of suffering. It comes from learning to step into the water yourself. Teachers can point, friends can encourage, but no one can walk your breath, your fear, your choices for you. Craving rescue only keeps you standing on the shore. Here's the gentle shift. When you stop waiting for completion, you discover something surprising. You are not unfinished. You are simply in motion. And motion doesn't require perfection. It only requires one honest step. Not a big leap, not a life overhaul, just one small movement that says, "I am here, and I begin from here." So let's practice for 20 seconds. Quietly ask yourself, what is one small step I can take in the next 24 hours, so small I can't fail? Maybe it's 3 mindful breaths in the morning, a 5-minute walk, writing one line, sending one message. Name it now, hold it gently in your mind. And as you sit with this truth, carry this question with you. What are you postponing until life feels safer? Because the path doesn't open when the fear disappears. The path opens when you decide to walk, even while the fear is still there. Truth 2. Your feelings are real, but they are not reliable leaders. Let's be honest. So many choices in your day begin with one quiet sentence in the mind, I don't feel like it. Or, I'm anxious, so I'll wait. And just like that, your plans shrink. Your courage pauses. Your life gets negotiated by whatever emotion happens to be loudest in the moment. The feeling is real, yes. But the question is, should it be in charge? This truth shows up when you skip the practice that would steady you because you feel tired, when you don't speak because fear tightens your chest, when you delay starting because motivation hasn't arrived. It feels natural to let emotion decide. After all, emotions are powerful. They color the world. They make things seem urgent, dangerous, or impossible. But if you look closely, you'll see how often they change. What feels overwhelming at night can feel manageable by morning. What feels terrifying today may feel small a week from now. From a Buddhist lens, feelings are like weather moving across the sky of awareness. Clouds of fear, winds of restlessness, warm sunlight of joy. They are real experiences, but they are not the sky itself. Mindfulness is learning to notice the weather without letting it steer the journey. Not suppressing it, not fighting it, simply seeing it clearly and choosing wisely anyway. Here's your practice. When a strong emotion appears, don't argue with it. Gently name it. Fear is here. Restlessness is here. Doubt is here. Then pause for one slow breath, and after that, take one small right action that aligns with who you want to be, not with what the emotion demands. One step, one kind word, one moment of effort. Because something powerful happens when you do this. You stop being pushed around by inner weather. You become the one who walks, even when the wind is strong. So reflect for a moment. Which emotion has been driving your schedule lately? And what might change if, just once today, you let awareness lead instead? Truth 3. Exhaustion is often attention loss, not energy loss. You tell yourself, I'm so tired, but if you look closely, it's not always your body that's worn out. It's your mind that's been pulled apart. One part scrolling, one part worrying, one part replaying a conversation, one part planning tomorrow. By the time you lie down, you haven't lifted anything heavy, yet you feel empty, drained, and restless. This is the quiet fatigue of a life lived in fragments. You see it in the way you move through the day. You check your phone while eating. You answer messages while half listening to someone you care about. You try to do 3 things at once and finish none with presence. Your mind keeps opening new tabs, never closing the old ones. And like a lamp plugged into too many wires, your light grows weak, not because there's no power, but because it's leaking everywhere. From a Buddhist lens, a scattered mind creates a scattered life. Where attention goes, energy follows. When awareness is steady, energy gathers. When awareness is divided, energy dissolves. The Buddha taught that right mindfulness and right concentration are not just for monks on cushions. They are the medicine for a restless world. They return your strength by bringing you back to one place, one breath, one moment at a time. Here's your practice. Make a one-task vow. For the next 10 minutes, choose one simple thing and do only that. Wash a cup. Read a page. Walk. Breathe. No phone. No switching. No mental side trips. Just this. And when your mind wanders, gently bring it back, again and again, without judgment. Feel what happens when your attention stops running. Because you may discover this. You don't need more stimulation. You don't even need more rest. You need more presence. So take a moment to reflect. Where does your attention leak the most? Your phone, other people's demands, or your own worries? And what might change if you guarded your attention as carefully as something truly precious? Truth 4. You don't suffer because life changes. You suffer because you demand it shouldn't. Notice how quickly the mind says, this shouldn't be happening. A plan falls apart. Someone disappoints you. Your body feels different. The world doesn't follow the script you wrote in your head. And in that moment, something tightens inside. Not just sadness, resistance. A quiet argument with reality itself, as if life has made a mistake, and it now owes you a different version of this moment. You see this truth when resentment lingers long after the event is over. When you replay conversations, rewriting them in your mind. When you keep returning to the past, thinking, if only this hadn't happened, I'd be okay now. The situation may be gone, but the struggle continues because part of you is still trying to push against what already is. From a Buddhist lens, this is where suffering multiplies. Pain is part of life. But suffering grows when pain meets resistance, when we refuse to allow the moment to be exactly as it is. Acceptance, in this sense, is not approval. It doesn't mean you like what's happening or that you stop caring. It simply means you stop fighting reality in your own body and mind. You meet it instead of arguing with it. Here's the practice. The next time something feels unbearable, quietly say to yourself, this is here. I can meet it. Then soften your jaw. Let your shoulders drop. Feel your breath move. These small movements tell your nervous system that the war is over, even if the situation isn't resolved yet. You are no longer adding a second layer of struggle. And something gentle opens when you do this. You may still feel pain, but you are no longer alone with it. You are present with it. And presence has a way of turning tightness into space. So reflect for a moment. What reality are you still negotiating with? What part of your life are you secretly hoping will rewrite itself before you allow yourself to be at peace? Because freedom doesn't come from changing the past. It comes from ending the fight with what is already here. Truth 5. Most of your stress is imaginary time travel. So much of what you call stress isn't happening right now. It's happening in a future your mind keeps visiting, or a past it refuses to leave. Tomorrow's fear. Yesterday's regret. Conversations that haven't happened yet. Moments that are already gone. Your body sits here, in this room, in this breath, but your mind is running through time, carrying weight from places that don't exist anymore. You see it when you lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying what you should have said. When your chest tightens over a meeting that hasn't arrived. When the mind keeps asking, what if? Or whispering, if only. And the strange thing is this, even when nothing is wrong in this moment, your heart can still feel under attack, because the mind has taken you somewhere else. From a Buddhist lens, this is how suffering is manufactured. The mind leaves the present and builds a world out of memory and imagination. And then it reacts as if that world were real. But peace doesn't live in yesterday or tomorrow. It only lives here, in the sensations of this moment, in the simple truth of being alive right now. Here's your practice. Gently bring yourself back with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. Name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. Then take 1 slow breath, longer on the exhale than the inhale. Feel where you are. Let your nervous system remember, I am here. I am safe enough in this moment. When you do this, you're not solving the future or fixing the past. You're stepping out of imaginary time and back into real life. And real life, right now, may be simpler than your mind is telling you. So reflect quietly. Do you suffer more from your life or from your thoughts about life? And what might change if, just for this breath, you chose to live only where you actually are? Truth 6. Comfort is a sweet prison when it becomes your religion. Comfort feels kind. It promises rest, safety, and relief. After a long day, it whispers, "You deserve this. Just relax. Don't push. Don't stir anything up." And sometimes that voice is wise. The body does need rest. The heart does need gentleness. But there is a quiet danger when comfort becomes the highest value of your life. When every decision is guided by what feels easiest, softest, least demanding. Without noticing, you may build a life that is painless and slowly powerless. You see this truth when you avoid the hard conversation because it might create tension. When you skip your practice because the bed is warm and the phone is close. When you stay in a situation that no longer fits your growth simply because change feels uncomfortable. You call it peace. But deep down, something feels dull, tight, unfinished. Because real peace doesn't come from avoiding what's hard. It comes from meeting what's hard with awareness. From a Buddhist lens, this is where the middle way becomes essential. The middle way is not indulgence, and it's not harsh self-denial. It's balance with courage. It's choosing what leads to freedom, not just what feels good in the moment. The Buddha saw that chasing pleasure binds us just as much as chasing pain. Both keep us reacting instead of awakening. Growth lives in that quiet place where you're willing to feel a little discomfort for the sake of deeper peace. Here's the practice. Today, choose one small discomfort that protects your future peace. Something gentle, but real. Maybe it's speaking one honest sentence, sitting for 3 minutes with your breath instead of reaching for distraction, turning off the phone earlier than usual, taking one step towards something you've been postponing. Don't make it heroic. Make it honest. Let it be a signal to yourself. I value my freedom more than my comfort. And notice what happens. The discomfort may be there at first, a flutter in the chest, a tightening in the stomach. But if you stay with it, it passes. What remains is a quiet strength, a sense that you can meet life, not just hide from it, that you are capable of more than the habits that keep you small. So take a moment to reflect. What do you keep calling self-care that is actually avoidance? Where are you choosing ease today at the cost of growth tomorrow? Because comfort can feel like kindness, but only courage opens the door. And the moment you step beyond that sweet prison, you may discover that real peace was never on the couch. It was waiting just outside the door. Truth 7. Your environment is training you, whether you notice it or not. You may think your life is shaped by willpower, by discipline, by strong decisions. But look closer. Most days, you don't choose your habits, your surroundings choose them for you. The phone by your pillow decides how you start and end the day. The noise in the room decides whether your mind can rest. The people you sit with decide what feels normal. Without realizing it, your environment becomes your quiet teacher, training you again and again in ways you never consciously agreed to. You see this when you promise yourself you'll sleep early, but the glow of a screen keeps pulling your eyes. When you plan to read or reflect, but endless feeds steal another hour. When certain rooms make you restless, and certain voices leave you heavy. It's not because you are weak. It's because the conditions around you are strong. They shape your attention, your mood, your choices, moment by moment. From a Buddhist lens, this is the law of causes and conditions. The mind doesn't arise in isolation. It is shaped by what surrounds it, just as a flame depends on wind and fuel. Change the conditions, and the flame changes. Keep the same conditions, and the same patterns return. This is why willpower alone so often fails. You are trying to swim upstream while the current of your environment keeps pulling you back. Here's the practice. Today, do one simple exchange. Remove one trigger that leads you away from peace and add one support that leads you toward it. Maybe you place your phone outside the bedroom and put a book by your pillow. Maybe you turn off background noise and open a window. Maybe you choose one person whose presence steadies you and one habit that no longer gets your time. Don't redesign your whole life. Just shift one piece. Let the path become a little easier to walk. And notice what happens. When the environment changes, effort feels lighter. What once required force begins to feel natural. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are guiding yourself. So reflect quietly. What is one thing in your environment that steals your peace every day? Not in theory, in real life. Because the space you live in is shaping the mind you live with. And when you choose your surroundings with care, you are not just decorating a room. You are training your future self. Truth 8. Boundaries are compassion with a spine. Many of us were taught that being kind means being available, that love means saying yes, that goodness looks like giving, even when it costs us something inside. So we learn to stretch ourselves thin. We smile while we're tired. We agree while our chest tightens. We keep offering more, not because we have abundance, but because we're afraid of disappointing someone. And slowly, kindness turns into quiet resentment. Not because we don't care, but because we've forgotten to care for ourselves too. You see this truth when you keep answering messages even when you need rest. When you take on work that drains you because you don't want to seem unhelpful. When you listen to everyone else's problems, but never make space for your own. On the surface, you look generous, but inside, something hardens. A feeling that you're being used. A sense that your peace is always the price. This is how people-pleasing is born, not from love, but from fear of guilt, rejection, or conflict. From a Buddhist lens, true compassion is guided by right intention and right speech. That means truth, but without cruelty. It means acting from a heart that wishes well for all beings, including yourself. The Buddha never taught us to abandon our own well-being in the name of kindness. In fact, harming yourself to keep others comfortable only plants seeds for future suffering. Real compassion protects what is wholesome. It does not sacrifice it. Boundaries, then, are not walls. They are bridges built with clarity. They tell others where you stand so that connection can remain honest. Without boundaries, relationships become confused. Giving becomes obligation. And love slowly turns into a burden you carry instead of a gift you share. Here's the practice. Choose one simple sentence you can use when something doesn't feel right. I can't do that, but I can do this. It's gentle. It's clear. It doesn't attack. It doesn't explain your whole life. It simply names your limit and offers what you truly can give. Say it in your mind first. Feel the discomfort rise, then feel it pass. Each time you honor a boundary, you teach your nervous system that safety doesn't come from pleasing, it comes from honesty. And notice what happens when you begin to do this. Some people may not like it, that's true. But something inside you will breathe easier, the tightness will soften, the resentment will fade. Because you are no longer trading your peace for approval. You are choosing alignment instead. So take a quiet moment to reflect. Where are you saying yes to avoid guilt, and then paying with peace later? Which small boundary, if spoken today, could protect your energy and your heart? Remember, every honest no is not a rejection of love. It is a deeper yes to a life that can be lived with steadiness, clarity, and genuine compassion for others. And for yourself too. Truth 9. Repetition is destiny. At some point you may catch yourself thinking, how did I end up here again? The same kind of conflict, the same late nights, the same promises broken, the same feeling of starting over. It can feel like life is circling you back to the same place, as if fate itself has a pattern it won't let go of. But if you look closely, it's often not fate at all. It's repetition. Small choices, made so often they become invisible, quietly shaping the direction of your life. You see this truth in the habits you hardly notice anymore. The way you reach for your phone when silence appears. The tone you use when you feel rushed. The thoughts you return to when something goes wrong. None of these moments seem dramatic, but together they form the path you walk. A single step doesn't decide your destination, but thousands of small steps, taken in the same direction, always do. From a Buddhist lens, this is karma in its simplest form. Not reward or punishment from outside, but patterns from within. What you repeat, you strengthen. What you strengthen, you become. And liberation is not about escaping life. It's about bringing awareness to these patterns and choosing them consciously. When you see clearly what you're practicing every day, you discover that change doesn't require a new life. It requires a new rhythm. Here's the practice. Choose one small daily anchor habit. Something so simple, it feels almost too small to matter. 3 slow breaths before you speak, when emotions rise. A 5-minute sit with your breath after you wake. A moment of gratitude before sleep. Pick one. Do it at the same time each day. Let it become your quiet return point. Not a rule, a refuge, because something subtle happens when you do this. The day no longer drags you wherever it wants. You create one steady place inside it, and from that place, other choices begin to shift. Not through force, through familiarity. You are training the mind the same way you once trained it into restlessness, only now toward calm. So pause and reflect. What are you practicing every day without calling it practice? Worry, rushing, avoidance, or presence, kindness and patience? Because repetition is always shaping you, whether you notice it or not. And the beautiful truth is this: the moment you choose even one small wise repetition, destiny begins to bend. Truth 10. Other people's opinions are loud, but they're not laws. There is a quiet weight many of us carry every day, even when no one else can see it. The feeling of being watched, judged, measured, as if somewhere an invisible audience is keeping score of your life. So you hesitate before you post. You delay before you start. You soften your truth before you speak, not because you don't know what matters to you, but because you're afraid of how it will look through someone else's eyes. You see this truth in the dreams that stay hidden because they might be laughed at, in the ideas you never share because they might be misunderstood, in the life you keep editing so it feels acceptable. The mind whispers, "What will they think?" And without realizing it, their imagined voices become louder than your own. You begin living in response to reactions that haven't even happened yet. From a Buddhist lens, this is the trap of praise and blame. The Buddha taught that both are like passing winds. One day they blow warm, another day they turn cold. But neither has the power to define who you are. When we cling to praise, we become addicted to approval. When we fear blame, we become prisoners of avoidance. In both cases, we hand our freedom to forces we cannot control. Integrity, on the other hand, becomes our shelter, a quiet place inside that says, "I know why I act. I know what I stand for." Look closely, and you'll see how modern life amplifies this struggle. Endless comparisons, numbers that pretend to measure worth, highlight reels that make ordinary life feel small. It's easy to forget that everyone else is just as unsure, just as busy managing their own fears. Most people are not watching you closely. They are caught in their own inner storms. Yet the mind tells a different story, and that story can shrink a whole life. Here's the practice. Name your vow, say it quietly, or out loud if you can. I will be guided by values, not reactions. Let it be simple, let it be yours. When you feel the pull of approval or the sting of imagined judgment, return to this vow. Ask yourself, what choice reflects who I want to be, even if no one applauds? Then take one small step from that place. This doesn't mean you become careless or unkind. It means you become anchored. You still listen, you still learn, but you no longer twist yourself into shapes just to fit someone else's expectations. You act with respect, not performance, with sincerity, not fear. And something gentle happens when you live this way. The world doesn't suddenly become quiet. Opinions still come. Some will praise, some will criticize, but they begin to pass through you instead of ruling you. You notice them and let them go. Like wind moving through open space, what remains is a deeper steadiness, a sense that you are walking your path, not acting in someone else's play. So take a moment now to reflect. What would you do if judgment had no power? What would you start? What would you say? What part of yourself would you finally allow to be seen? Don't rush to answer, just let the question rest in your heart. Because the truth is this: freedom is not when everyone agrees with you. Freedom is when their agreement is no longer required. When you meet each moment with mindfulness, courage, and an open heart, you discover that the loudest voice in your life doesn't have to be the world's. It can be your own quiet knowing, and from that place, you can live, not to be approved, but to be true. The freedom practice, the 60-second lantern before we close. I want to leave you with one simple ritual you can carry into any moment of anxiety, overthinking, or inner noise. Think of it as lighting a small lantern in the dark, not to erase the night, but to remind yourself that you are not lost. You don't need an hour. You don't need perfect silence. Just 60 seconds of honest presence can begin to change the way you meet your mind. First, notice. When the spiral starts, gently say to yourself, a story is here. Not my problem, not my failure, just a story the mind is telling. This creates a little space. You step out of being inside the story and become the one who sees it. Even this small shift can soften the grip of the moment. Second, name what's here. Fear is here, craving is here, regret is here. You're not trying to fix it, you're simply calling it by its name. Third, normalize it. Whisper, this is human. Because it is. Every heart knows these states. There is nothing broken about you for feeling them. When you allow this, shame loosens and compassion quietly takes its place. Fourth, narrow your world. When the mind feels huge, make life small again. Say one breath, one task, one kind action. Take one slow breath. Choose one simple thing to do next. Offer one small kindness, even if it's just to yourself. You don't solve your whole life. You return to the next right moment. Finally, nourish. Place a hand on your chest. Let your exhale be slow and soft. Relax your jaw. Soften your face. Feel the warmth of your own touch. This tells your nervous system, I am here with you. You don't have to fight alone. Move through these steps at your own pace. Notice, name, normalize, narrow, nourish. In less than a minute, you've lit a lantern. The world may not have changed, but the way you're standing in it has. And remember this line, let it settle into you. Freedom is not a dramatic moment. It's a small return, again and again. Each time you come back to presence, each time you choose kindness over panic, awareness over reaction, you are training a freer mind. Not someday, right now. One small return at a time. As we come to the end, imagine this with me. You're sitting quietly, and in your hands, you're holding 10 small stones. Each stone carries one truth you've heard tonight, the ones that made sense, the ones that felt heavy, the ones you may have resisted. You don't throw them away. You don't judge yourself for carrying them. You simply place them down, gently, one by one. With every stone you set down, your hands grow lighter. Your breath softens. Your body remembers what it feels like to not be holding so tightly. You don't need to master your whole life tonight. You don't need to fix every habit, heal every wound, or become someone new before morning comes. You only need to stop fighting what's real. To let this moment be exactly as it is. To allow yourself to rest inside it, without arguments, without stories, without needing it to be different. Even this is practice. Even this is enough. So stay here for one more breath. Feel the weight you've put down. Feel the quiet space in your hands, in your chest, in your mind. And remember, the path doesn't ask for perfection. It only asks for your willingness to return, again and again, to what is true. If you want more calm, honest Buddhist reflections like this, subscribe and rest here with me again. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which truth hit you the hardest? 1 to 10. Let this be a place where we walk the path together, gently, one moment at a time.